Hey everyone, Alfonso Salemi here with another episode of Jags Hometown Heroes. And today we're in the beautiful city of Burlington, Ontario, under the Burlington Skyway Bridge with a beautiful view of the Burlington skyline right here on Lake Ontario. And today we're sitting down with a real estate lawyer who's a great partner and a great asset in Jags rent-to-own program, Ryan Carson. Now, when Ryan was growing up, he wanted to be a hockey player, or a baseball player, or a police officer, but eventually he followed in his dad's footsteps and became a lawyer. And he had a great super mom that helped him along the way. So Ryan, growing up, won a lot of championships in hockey and baseball and reached some of the highest levels in some of the sports that he played. I'm really excited to sit down with Ryan and talk a little bit about his background, how he helps so many of our clients and investors, in the rent-to-own program. And I think it's really going to be a great chat. Hope you enjoy it. Okay.
Never been more ready.
You ready?
Sure.
Hey Ryan, thanks for sitting down with me today, and really looking forward to having a great chat. And you're definitely one of our hometown heroes right here in Burlington, Ontario. And so for everybody that's watching, give us a little bit of a background before you got into what you're doing now. What was your jam? What were you doing?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Alfonso, on today, and thanks for taking the time. I mean, before I got into real estate and being a real estate lawyer, while we were talking about this, I actually worked at golf courses, and I worked for Golf Town.
Oh,
so I was doing a lot of sales, works, tournaments, selling equipment, that kind of thing. So I was really into the sports thing, right? And then found out I got into law school, and then wham, here we are 15 years later.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know, you kind of followed in your dad's footsteps, and different types of law and all that kind of stuff. But was that the main inspiration? Is that why you kind of got into law and then around that real estate? Or kind of walk us through a little bit about how that was introduced and getting into the real estate?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. To be honest, my dad actually encouraged me probably not to go into law.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it's a demanding profession, right? And it can kind of consume people, and he always really prided himself on having a great balance between that profession, but personally, he wanted to be a dad, right? He wanted to be a dad, and a lot of people can't do that, with the law profession. You get swallowed in, and then it just encompasses you, and you have no time for anything other than work, right? So yeah, he kind of discouraged it, although I think, at the end of the day he was proud, but he kind of discouraged it, and actually my inspiration was my love for sports.
Okay.
So I've always, been big into sports. My undergrad before I went to law school was kinesiology and sports management. So not being somebody that was a good enough player to make it professionally, I was kind of well, I should probably go to law school, and then I could be a sports agent, or work with business, sports businesses.
Love it.
Right?
Love
so that was the reason I went to law school.
Okay.
And and then things just have a funny way of changing, and I had one or two guys that I was kind of crossing my fingers would be my studs to be my big stars, and everything would catapult off of that. And they did a really great job. They did do a bit of pro, but just life changed for me, life changed for them a bit, and you got to pay the bills. I got married and everything, and had a family. So until they made it big, I didn't make it big, so had to find something else. So
you had this law degree, and you had to put it to work, right?
So real estate, corporate wills and estates became the thing.
Yeah, for sure. So as you were going through that, and obviously it's kind of funny, I didn't know that story, that your dad's actually kind of try to keep you out and say, no, maybe it's not a good idea. Yeah. What you were so, it sounded very clear on, the plans and goals, but did you have any fears along the way? Law school is pretty daunting. I know it's many years, there's, that's one of the professions that you have to be really dedicated and want to do it. But what were some of the fears, or that you're am I good enough? Or I see what dad's saying, maybe he's right. How did that kind of impact the journey?
Yeah, no, you're right. It is pretty tough. And having already done 4 years of school, and then you get back in it, it's university's a bit tough. There's people that would have a bit of maybe a conspiracy theory, how am I getting graded at this level, and then all my friends are getting graded at this level, but I know it better than them, and all this kind of stuff.
For sure.
So I vividly remember having a conversation with my dad going through law school and being like, Dad, I don't know if I'm going to finish this. Like, this is just too much for me. I could go back. I know I could get my job where I had it before, and like that, I'll have a great, comfortable life, right? You know, he gave me some good wisdom and said, you know, if that's what you want to do and that's what you're going to be, like, you can live with that and that's your, like, point of acceptance, then, hey, go for it, right? Nothing wrong with that. But he's like, think about the opportunities that, like, this will open up for you. Whether you practice in law, like, you don't have to. Just finish, and then you can go use it like an MBA, like, for anything, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, so that was a big thing for me. That was kind of a little bit of a struggle point, you know, through the process. But once I finished, once I graduated, once I got, like, the call to the bar and the license and all that kind of great stuff, it's probably one of those moments in life where, like, the weight comes off your shoulders so much. And, you know, after that, it was kind of like no looking back.
Yeah, and that was, you know, like an accomplishment. Then, you know, keep going the path and making it all worth it, right? And
that's right.
So, you know, as you're going through that, and you know, you're getting there, and okay, you've overcome that struggle and, you know, that tough part. You know, at any point in your life, what was maybe after that point, after you got called to the bar, what was the first big win that you were like, wow, yeah, you know what, I'm glad I stuck it out. I know, you know, you called to the bar and that's all the form, but really that's when all it starts, right? And you know, what was the first big win, or is like, you know what, I was meant to do this, or this is exactly where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably been a couple. I mean, the first one I think was just kind of getting started as an associate with Haber & Associates in town.
Okay.
So they had offices in Burlington and Milton, and yeah, I just got kind of started with them. They really gave me my first, like, true, like, shot. I did some articling at another firm out of Niagara, Lancaster, Brooks and Welch, actually.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'd been there, and I started with a couple months there, and you know, it's just kind of not the right fit. Great people there, but just not the right fit. And then we actually started to realize, you know what, we don't want to live in Niagara. We want to live back in Halton. So just the, you know, the first big win was getting hired on at Haber, I think, and then being able to start that career there. And it was just a perfect fit, because at the end of the day, they kind of wanted me to just kind of run from the, you know, just get started with the, you know, running, and they didn't have a lot of, I don't want to say they didn't have a lot of expectations, but they just wanted me to start the practice, the real estate practice, and just see where it took us, right? Like, see how we could grow it.
Gotcha.
And that really fit in for me, because kind of like you, I really enjoy, like, the marketing aspect of business.
Yeah.
You know, and I think regardless of what kind of business you do, whether, you know, you're in real estate or you're in law or you're a doctor, like, you always are, like, marketing in some way, because you're marketing yourself.
For sure,
right?
You have to stand out. You have to differentiate from.
Yeah. So for me, that was awesome, because they had a good group of clerks and everything. I didn't really have to, like, do a lot with that. I just had to kind of come in, kind of show them I belonged and earn my stripes with them as a team, and then I just went out and just, like, went to town, like, marketing, right, and just growing the practice for them. And then the next big win was probably, the next biggest win was setting up my own practice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that was maybe right around the preface where I started hearing your name, Carson Law, Carson the lawyer. I thought your first name was Carson for the longest time, right? And you know, that must have been, you know what, towards the end of the first decade of 2000s, right? Oh,
yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you're stepping out on your own. You've made some contacts. You kind of got your feet underneath you. How was that stepping? Was that scary? Was that exciting? Like, you know, what your kids were born at this time, or
earlier? Okay. Yeah. So
like
when I first started practice, like my first year of practice, our daughter was just born. Okay. And so kind of all those things, like buying my first house, really starting my first, like, career, and having a kid, all in the same 12 months, like, all kind of happened there.
Oh, wow.
Jake was a couple years later. But by the time I went on my own, they were probably, like, you know, maybe like 4 and 2 or something like that, I think. But it was just, everything kind of came together just right at the right time. My wife's business was a business that was able to get, like, bought out, so she was able to get, like, a severance.
Okay.
And so we just kind of said, hey, you know what? this is the right time to maybe just do this. Like, there's other opportunities floating out there for you, Ryan, and you know, Jen, you know, rather than her go look for, you know, another career placement, she's kind of like, you know what, all right, let's see what you can do, right? So start your own practice, see what you can do. Now you don't have to worry about, like, you know, always being home, like at the beginning and the you know, the first year, as you know, like when you start a business, whew, like I was coming in at like midnight, 1 o'clock, all really, it was a little bit rough, but the sacrifices were you know, fantastic. You know, went from just me to you know, 25 plus people now.
Yeah, that's incredible. And, you know, having that support at home and now building a team and having that support, knowing that, you know, you can't do everything. You know, there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much mental capacity that you can handle on. And, you know, as you're saying that, I think I know the answer, and, you know, there's probably a few different answers, but, you know, what sets you apart, that drive, or what gives you that motivation? Like saying, working at midnight, getting back up at 6 in the morning. I know you care so much about our clients, the investors, my parents, family members, people that I know, you know, all of our investors, a lot of them work with you on, you know, closing those transactions and caring so much. What is that sets you apart, that, you know, that's a little bit different than everyone else?
Yeah, well, you're making me blush now a little bit. You can't tell through the beard, right? But you know, that's really nice of you to say, like, a lot of nice things there. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to always, like, talk about yourself that way, but.
Well, I'm asking you, so you're not just gloating. I want.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at the end of the day, the two things that I think make me a bit different, like, one, I just have this innate desire to grow. Like, it's just like, that's what makes me excited. And I think I started to realize that when I took the leap to start my own practice, because I never, like, you know, coming out of law school, I would have never thought I would be doing this. I just kind of thought, oh, you know, I'll, like, you know, if I don't get the agent, you know, thing locked up, or working in a, you know, sports business or something like that, you know, okay, fine, I'll be an associate or in-house somewhere at a company.
Work your way up to partner.
And just kind of do whatever, right? Like, just do the norm. The norm, right? You know, just life has a funny way of putting you on a path, and you just kind of walk it, right? And I think once I went on my own, and once I started to, like, be able to kind of get that the juices flowing again, like doing a lot of the marketing and doing a lot of, like, the creation of a business. Like, that really started to light a fire for me to be like, oh, this is what I love. Wow. Right? Like, this is what I love. I love sitting here trying to, like, see where we're going to start, like, this little seed, and see if we can get it into, like, the oak forest, right?
Give it the things that it needs, you know.
So that desire to grow was probably one thing that makes me a bit, I guess, different. And then, you know what, this is not something that makes me different, but I just really like people. I just really like interacting with people. You know, in part, some of the stuff that we're going through with COVID is tough because you don't get the, like, in-person component. I mean, it's great that you still have the video component, so I guess you're still interacting, you know, visually, but actually, you know, physically sitting in the same room with people and having that interaction component, I definitely miss. But I mean, that's one of the best parts about the job. Like,
you meet all kinds.
Just you meet a lot of the files are the same. Like, a lot of the matters are the same. Like, the substance of it, the context is the same. It's repetitive, and, like, a lot of people have said to me, like, oh man, how many interviews or, like, meetings do you do a day? Like, this must get boring, right? And it's funny because I always say to them, you know what? It honestly never does, because every time I sit down with somebody, it's always different because they're different. Even though it's the same thing. Like, you know, I did 10 house purchases, you know, maybe in a day. You know. But it doesn't matter because it's 10 unique people. You know, every single time.
Situations, and scenarios, the people, why they're buying, the stories around it, right? And the things that really make you remember them, right? You're not going to remember a certain house on a certain street, but a conversation or why they're buying that helps someone, right? You know, those are the lasting memories. That's really cool. And, you know, I wanted to throw competitive in there too. You know, being an athlete, wanting to be a sports agent, the type of athlete, the way, you know, even the level of sports that your kids play now, right? And, you know, I think you've helped us out at, you know, certain events where you're in full-on manager's gear, you know, helping us out, dropping some marketing stuff, and, you know, giving a quick talk, and then out to you know, baseball practice, you know, and the competitive drive. And I think that's really good, because you want to win. Like, you want to do, like, you know, it's not at all costs. You want to help people, but you want that growth, that, you know, being that best. I see that all the time. You know, like, we're, you know, playing for Finns on the golf course, right? Of who can hit the hole, and that competitive nature, making it competitive out of anything. And I guess the question I wanted to ask is, you know, who inspires you? Like, when you look at it, because you're definitely an inspiring figure, and giving a lot of people, you know, encouragement of like, hey, 25 people, I went on my own, I wasn't even supposed to do this, right? Yeah. And, you know, and amazing success. So what are the things, or who are the people that inspire you these days?
Yeah, well, I mean, my parents obviously inspire me a lot. Like, I mean, they've been great role models since I was a little kid. They've all, I mean, I kind of alluded to it early. Like, my parents always sort of taught me the balance between, like, what matters. Like, figure out what matters to you in your life and make sure you, like, balance it out, right? And so obviously, like you said, having a really successful business and a company that's respected, and staff that love working here, like, that matters to me. Making sure we're servicing the clients, I mean, that obviously matters. But making sure, and first and foremost, I'm there for, like, my wife and kids is number one, right? So having, like, that balance. So my parents really kind of inspired me to make sure you have that balance, and, like, just the simple motto of, just treat people the way you want to be treated. I think if you do that, then everything else just falls into place, right? My wife inspires me. I know that she'd probably say, like, well, how do I do that? But I mean, just every day, like, she gets up and she just takes care of the kids, and she makes sure, like, everything outside of, like, the business is running, right? Yeah. Like, she does a lot of multitasking, and she does a lot of things that, I don't have to worry about, right? So she always inspires me each day. And then honestly, like, my team does, on the professional side, my team really inspires me. They're a bunch of, like, really great people. They're really positive. And you know what? I throw so much at them. You know what I mean? Like, and they never really gripe about it, or at least they don't gripe to me about it. But they're just great. Like, they, I think, know, like, oh, geez, Ryan just wants to keep growing and growing and growing. And, as much as we can, we keep trying to add people to the mix and make the team bigger and stronger. Mm-hmm. But, like, the people in the core that just keep, staying and ticking along and helping, like, manage it and everything like that, those guys really inspire me a lot too, because, they just do it with a smile, and they just just kind of follow my lead, and then when they know I need a little bit of a slap behind the head or something, like, maybe this isn't the right move, or, like, I don't think that's the right thing, right? Like, then they're good to tell me that, right? So I really have a lot of respect and inspiration from them too.
Yeah, that's incredible, and we've got to meet so many of your team members over the years, and the key's always ready, on time. That's something that we keep hearing over and over with our partners, our investors, and the key's always ready, on time, and the questions are there, and being helpful, and it's so amazing, how quickly the time goes by, but the partnership that we've been able to, to kind of bond together through Carson Law with JAG Properties, and without your help and your firm's help and your team's help, and, I guess your family and all the people that inspired you to get you to this point, it wouldn't have been possible to help others, to achieve home ownership and get on that path and own their homes. So, to kind of wrap up, is there anything or something that you would want people to know about JAG Properties?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are great. I mean, you're just a fantastic organization and company. I mean, I have a lot of respect for you and Adam. Like, you started, like, around the same time I did, and it's just kind of you guys, right? Like, I remember we had lunch, Chad and I had lunch with you and Adam, and you guys, about 2 or 3 years ago, and you kind of, at that point, I think you're at a pretty pivotal point for you guys, like, oh, I need to hire, like, 4 more of me, and Adam needs, like, 4 more of him, and, like, once we do that, like, we're flying, right? And I just got a lot of respect for you guys, and how well organized you are. Like, you've got, like, a perfect balance. Like, you're the one half of the business, and Adam's kind of the other half, and you guys just really do a great job complementing each other, and working with your clients and, like, working your files. It's so easy because it's, again, well organized. Your team just does a great job, so they obviously take care of you know, your investors and your rent to own customers and everything. And I mean, I think the other big thing and the great thing about rent to own, and you guys do it like, you know, right at the top, is you're really helping people succeed with a dream. You know, like a lot of people aren't as lucky as, you know, maybe you and I are, and we could just go buy a property and like it's no big deal. You know, a lot of people have been through a struggle or you know, something happened. They're just not as fortunate to be able to just go and, you know, buy the house of their dreams and make it their home. And you guys are making that happen, and I think that is really admirable. You know, like you're somebody who cares about making sure that the stigma that people maybe associate with rent to own is really not true. Yeah. You know, like you can do this kind of job and you can have this kind of company, and you can help people, and you can do it the right way. And that's what you guys do.
Well, that's awesome, Ryan. And thank you so much for sitting down with me today. You are definitely one of JAG's hometown heroes. And we appreciate everything that you do, your whole team, and looking forward to keep growing, because your growth inspires our growth, and we can hopefully inspire each other. So thank you so much, man.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.